This week's scenario is fire support from the 2014 Steamroller packet. This scenario does have the Killbox Artifice in effect, and consists of 2 flags and 2 objectives. The flags can be controlled for 1 CP and dominated for 2 CPs, and the objectives can be destroyed for 1 CP, but only 1 per player. The objectives have a defense of 5, armor of 18, and 15 damage boxes. The objectives also have the ability Firepower. While this objective is not contested by enemy models, light artillery within 4 inches of this model gain boosted damage rolls.
Alright, I have P-Reznik with a Hierophant, his buddy Scourge of Heresy, a Reckoner. I have a Monolith Bearer with full Zealots, because they're fantastic at controlling zones and basically kind of bogging down people. I have Squire for the Jacks. I have the Errants plus UA for infantry / clearing zones. I have some Bastions to take out all the heavy things that I kind of need to. I have a Bastion Seneschal for both Bastions and solo hunting. Racks for focus. I have a Mechanic, a Vassal, and of course Errant Seneschal to help out the Errant.
Hello everybody, Taodark here. This week I'm going to be playing my P-Haley list, relatively new to Cygnar. This is probably my 6th or 7th game that you're seeing on video, but just trying to give some Cygnar love to the channel, even if it is from a learning perspective. Running P-Haley with some Blazers and some Gun Mages. I also have the Forge Guard, and make sure that they can be affected by the feat. I've given them Murdoch. Warcaster for Arcane Shield, and then Eiryss just to deal with some upkeep hate.
Alright, for deployment, I kind of try to centralize the Jacks to where I can lean either way with them, depending on where I need them. For the Bastions, I kind of center them up with the Colossal, so that I can kind of scare him, not really, kind of, sort of. I have the Squire, the Vassal, and the Mechanic right behind the Jacks, so that they can help out the Jacks as much as possible. Then I have the Zealots and Monolith Bearer on the one side to try to help contest.
So for my Cygnar deployment, I deployed the Colossal Central. I'm actually kind of looking at that obstruction as a scenario where I might be able to base the Colossal next to it, and then P-Haley can have a kind of a dominating position behind those 2 large objects that block a line of sight to her. I do know that P-Haley tends to get shot up a lot. I'm running the Forge Guard across from his heavy infantry, and then also somewhat near to his Jacks. I'm running the Gun Mages closer to the side for some pushing to prevent flag control on that right hand side, and then the Tempest Blazers near the force since they have built-in Pathfinder.
Alright, Advanced Deploy. So, for Advanced Deploy, I have the unit of Errants, which I try to centralize in the middle of the table, because I wasn't 100% set on where I wanted to have them be at this moment in time, but this gives them more flexibility on which way I can lean with them. Then I put the Seneschal behind them, so he's a little bit more protected, and he can also give him his Hunter ability. And Racks, of course, behind them, so that they're protected. Alright, Menoth turn 1. So I allocate out 3 focus, 2 to Scourge, 1 to the Reckoner, basically for them to run, and an extra 1 to Scourge just in case I want to stop a spell from getting off that isn't going to be too helpful to me. The Errants end up running towards the flag, so they can either take it or kind of take out some Forge Guard on the way. The Errant Seneschal decides to follow suit. The Holy Zealots end up running, and they use their Prayer of Warding. For those who don't know about warding, it actually means they cannot be targeted by spells, so it's actually kind of helpful. Then I activate the Bastions. Bastions end up running and just kind of getting a little bit closer to the Colossal so they can, you know, monkey stomp it. Squire ends up walking forward. They end up doing shielding. For those who don't know about shielding, it protects the jacks from non-magical range attacks. So everything but the gun mages. Both jacks end up running forward, just kind of getting up the table. The Hierophant uses Harmonious Exaltation, which is 1 less to one of Reznik's spells. Reznik's use Iron Aggression on Scourge, and the Vassal puts Enliven also on Scourge. For those who don't know about Enliven, the first time he's damaged, he gets to make a full advance.
Cygnar turn 1. So admittedly, I have actually never played against P-Reznik. I'm not too terribly familiar with him. I read his cards a little bit before we started the match, but this is a caster that I don't normally see. So, again, I'm looking at the table. The Stormwall is probably just going to advance up for the purposes of being in base-to-base without obstruction and giving a bunker for P. Haley. The Zealots have moved forward and they have gotten closer to me. I'm kind of curious if the Tempest Blazers, or as we like to call them, murder ponies, can reach out and potentially shoot 1 or 2 of them. Not that it's going to do anything major, but I can use that opportunity to plink off 1 or 2 of them, and then I can light cav off back behind the woods so that they won't be able to have line of sight to throw their bombs at me, but they will have to advance forward. And then I can maybe do something to them on turn 2. They did not have range, so I just declared off shots that automatically fail, and then light cav back after my actions. Journeyman goes forward and puts Arcane Shield on the Stormwall. This may have actually been a flaw of mine. Again, not familiar with Reznik, but even more so, not familiar with the Scourge of Heresy, which apparently has Purgation on it. And though the Arcane Shield will assist with Reckoner shots and the like, it will actually hinder me when the Heresy gets close up. So I'm definitely going to need to keep an eye on that model and see if there's any way of blocking it up. I mean, P. Haley's temporal barrier means that he's not going to be able to get charges off. So hopefully I can just use his slow speed and no charging to allow me to keep him safe. Stormwall puts down covering fire templates, and this is more so just to prevent any charges or any sort of advancing into that portion of the zone. I want to keep that middle open so the Stormwall has the ability to advance up in my following turn. And then I just activate the Forge cards and advance them up into little trifle blocks of 3 so that even though the bolts of the Errants ignore the Arcane Shield that's on them that came from Haley, it's not going to ignore their defensive line for Armor 18. And then there's a couple of them that are on the hill. Murdoch went on the hill, not being part of any of the formations, just to be there. Gun mages move up in preparation, not close enough that I'll get bombed, but hopefully close enough that when they advance towards me, I can shoot them next turn. And then I just take a random shot, trying to plink off 1 or 2 of them. Oh, I killed 1. The other one I couldn't get line of sight on because of the objective. And then the for the last part is I don't want the Stormwall issues because of Errants, so I just ran her over to the hill.
which is kind of helpful for me. So I allocate out 2 focus, 1 to each jack, and I also upkeep Iron Aggression. For those who don't know what Iron Aggression does, it actually lets me charge and trample for free and gives me boosted attack rolls. So the Errants just kind of shimmy up, kind of trying to get some pot shots off before both the Forge Guard get here and before I have to charge. Also end up shooting the lightning pod, killing it, because after there's 3 on the table, they just get really, really annoying. I am getting really lucky with some of the Forge Guard and end up killing a few of them. One of the wonderful things about Errants is they have blessed crossbows, so the arcane shield that's on them, they kind of ignore it. So instead of being armor 21, they're only armor 18. Then I kind of shimmy over the Hierophant, do Morning Exaltation. Squire ends up activating, do shielding again, no range attacks to get, no non-magical range attacks. The Reckoner ends up walking forward, boosting a shot at one of the gun mages, ends up blowing him out of the water. Scourge of Heresy just kind of runs up, setting himself up for next turn, possibly trying to charge the Stormwall. Then the Holy Zealots, they kind of do something different. They decide to run, also using Greater Destiny and Warding. So you already know what Warding did because of turn 1, can't be targeted by spells. Greater Destiny says for 1 round they can't be damaged by anything but spells and feats. And it's actually really helpful since how Haley's feat doesn't actually do damage. Reznik ends up activating. He ends up putting Ignite on the Errants and also taking a focus from the Wrack. Wrack ends up exploding. But they get Ignite. Bastions end up running to kind of shield him from the Colossal. That's big, scary, and has really big guns. The Seneschal just kind of runs, and that's it.
Cygnar turn 2. So he's advanced up. He's now on the halfway line, and I'm going to have to get into the thick of it. I was really kind of hoping for more opportunities to shoot up the Zealots, but with the fact that he's now run up and they can't be affected by anything but feats, and they can't be affected by spells, and just really my gun mages and my Tempest Blazers aren't going to be able to do anything to those guys. I will be putting up Temporal Barrier so that he can't get charges next turn, and that's just an effort to keep the Stormwall alive longer. Maybe I can push back the Scourge of Heresy. Since he can't charge, he's only speed 4. If I can push him back an inch or 2 and just keep doing that every turn, then I might be able to shoot off the Heresy before it can get any damage in. Tempest Blazers go. Since I can't do anything to the Zealots, I decided to put in some brutal shots onto the objective. One of them was out, and the others managed to do a decent amount of damage onto it. Little tokens that we have for the objectives actually allow you to mark the damage on the token itself. And then after they've declared their shots, they're just going to I've kind of looked at the opportunity that he's provided me with the fact that the Zealots have run up. I now can hard flank with the Tempest Blazers and put Reznik in a potentially threatening situation. He's got a really high armor to him, but with Brutal I might be able to do enough damage over 2 turns to kill him. Unfortunately, in hindsight, the only problem with this move is that I've now put them completely out of Haley's control area, so it's going to be really difficult to ever catch them into the feet, and that's one of the reasons why I had the Tempest Blazers in this list, is because underneath her feet they're going to have the capacity of throwing out 10 brutal shots, which can do a considerable amount of damage to a lot of models that he has. But I'm looking at more of an opportunity of putting it onto a caster and then getting brutal shots out of that, but it requires them to start their activation in. So the gun mages go forward. Since they can't do anything and they have a high defense, I've decided to just jam up as many of the gun mages as I can, and then the officer runs over and Thunderbolt pushes the Scourge of Heresy back, because I do want to advance the Stormwall forward and put him in base to base with that obstruction. I do want to advance him forward, and I need to make sure that he's not going to be in range of being able to advance up onto the Stormwall from Heresy, which is why I did the pushback. And then the engagement of the Zealots was just in hopes of, I can't damage you now, but if you try and pull away from me next turn when your mini feat's not up, then you'll take 3 strikes, and hopefully that will be enough to kill you. Gun mages aren't known for their ability to kill in melee, but Zealots aren't known for their ability to survive anything other than a wet paper bag hit, so I'm kind of hoping it plays out in my favor. So checking Haley's control area to make sure everything's in line. I put down a pod because I was trying to see if it was possible. I had declared that I wanted to put a pod down behind the Reckoner, and then after giving it some thought and putting the 10-inch template down, I realized I wasn't actually going to be able to get it behind the Reckoner in order to disrupt it. But since I had already declared it, I put it down, because that's not, I mean, that you declared that's what you're going to do, you're going to do it. In hindsight, that really wasn't a good idea. Just because Reznik has the ability to cause one of his jacks to move when it dies. So whereas I pushed him back an inch, now I'm going to have the ability for him to advance anyways. So really bad play on my part. It was not worth the attempt to try and disrupt the Reckoner. Although the Reckoner's shot will do some damage, the Arcane Shield will protect it, or protect it better than if I allow the Scourge of Heresy to get onto the Stormwall. And then on the Forge Guard front, I think I'm a little too, this is Eiryss going, and all Eiryss is doing is I decided to pull her back to I want to have her toe on the hill. I'm not a big fan of those bolts killing Eiryss, and I'm hoping that while she has elevation, she'll be able to survive any of the shots that they do. But she goes ahead and shoots to take off Ignite off of the Errants. Not because I consider Ignite to be a huge concern, but more of I'm going to make my opponent spend that focus if he wants to put Ignite back on, which means that there's less armor on Reznik for my Tempest Blazers to shoot at him in the following turn. I do manage to kill one guy, and I'll take that. The Forge Guard, I'm probably a bit too passive with them. I probably should have just ran them up and engaged them where I could. But they're really, really slow, so that was an issue, and then I just kind of advanced them up.
Menoth turn 3. Alright, so far what we have in effect is 2 Arcane Shields and a Temple Barrier. So, +3 armor on both Stormwall and the Forge Guard, and I cannot run or charge in his control area. So, pretty fun. I ended up allocating out 3 to the Scourge of Heresy, because he can kind of get to the Colossal this turn. The Hierophant ends up walking up just Harmonious Exaltation on Reznik, so that, you know, one of his spells is cheaper. The Squire ends up activating. I actually end up misactivating them because they can't actually get to Scourge of Heresy. Kind of sucks, but you know, it happens. Oh well. Bastions activate. They just kind of shimmy around, trying to screen Reznik as best as possible for when he does work his magic. The Vassal actually activates and puts Enliven on Scourge of Heresy, just in case he were to swing back. I can then walk away without any free strikes. I'll only take 1 hit, he'll hurt, but I'll still walk away with something. Reznik ends up using Perdition. For those who don't know about Perdition, it's a magical bolt, and if I actually damage someone with it, a Warjack in my battle group can actually make a full advance. So it's actually really helpful, especially during Temple Barrier time. That's it for Reznik. Scourge of Heresy actually activates. he actually walks forward and does 1 for Arcane Assassin. For those who don't know about Arcane Assassin, it's actually ignores spells that add to your defense and armor, and also ignores focus. So it's actually really helpful against an Arcane Shield Stormwall. So I ended up swinging a couple times, and also he does have, I believe it's called Purgation on his sword, which gives him a boosted damage die on models with spells, and it just so happens he has Arcane Shield. So I am doing pretty well with damage between Purgation and just the beefiness of Scourge of Heresy. I actually do pretty well. I knock out about half of the Stormwall, and I think a few into the next one. Overall, you know, Stormwall's kind of hurt, which is the plan for the game. Then I move over to the Zealots and decide that I'm just gonna walk away from combat, because gun mages don't have the best of mat, and my defense is okay. So I decided to walk away with 3 of them. 2 of them end up surviving, 2 end up dying. So, you know, 50-50. It's all good. So I am splitting them up. Some to shoot at the cav, some to shoot at the gun mages. I actually ended up doing pretty well with them, shooting wise, between blast damage and between regular hitting. I am killing, I believe, 4 to 5 gun mages and leaving only like 1 of them left. So that's actually really fantastic, especially for Zealots. They are kind of close, so that could be why, so deviation isn't going to be too much. But either way, I'm happy with what they did. Then, I also think it's fantastic because once they're done over here, once they're done with the cav and the gun mages, they can kind of roll over to Stormwall and Haley. So that gives them 2 options. Either 1, focus the Stormwall on the Zealots, to where Stormwall is no longer focused on everything else coming towards him. He has to then focus on the Zealots, or Haley has to run effectively to get away from them, and that would not help Haley at all. So right now it's kind of looking a little grim for the Cygnar right now. But on the other hand, Cygnar still has a few tricks up their sleeve, and they are very sneaky and very good. So you never know what Cygnar is going to bring out on the table. Alright, so I am like hurting the ponies a little bit. Ponies end up feeling a little bit of pain. Not too much, but just enough. Between blast damage and everything, I think I am doing a couple points. So can't be too, you know, upset about it. The Reckoner ends up trying to shoot, and he ends up shooting the Colossal. Ends up doing like a couple points here and there. It's not too bad, especially for a boosted POW like 14 attack, which I also did get a crit for, so that actually makes the Colossal on fire, so that's extra damage. Woohoo! Then the Errants decide to activate. They walk forward, trying to stay out of the covering fire templates, but not walking too far that the Forge Guard will end up screwing them over next turn. So I am trying to shoot. I am shooting a Forge Guard a little too close to my Jack. End up missing him, and then I have to try to shoot my Jack. Thank God I didn't do anything to Scourge. I ended up taking a couple pot shots at the Forge Guard in front of Murdoch. Then, after I took a couple pot shots at him, I finally realized, hey, I should probably shoot Murdoch. Murdoch is pretty important. So I am starting to shoot Murdoch, and my Errants actually end up being fantastic for me, and end up actually killing him, which is awesome. So now they no longer are affected by friendly faction items in the Cygnar book. So I believe Haley's Feet will no longer work on them because they are no longer friendly faction because of Murdoch, which is kind of cool. It helps me out, makes them a little less scary. Still scary, but a little less scary. End up killing the other 2 Forge Guard that are there. And the other ones just kind of bounce off the Forge Guard. Now, the Seneschal, on the other hand, he is out of his temporal barrier range, so he actually gets 2 charge, which is super fantastic. And he ends up hitting one guy, ends up killing him, and that's basically it for the Seneschal. That's all he really does. He doesn't do too much, but not too little.
Cygnar turn 3. So as it was foretold, the Scourge of Heresy did manage to get onto the Stormwall, and because of Arcane Shield, was able to do a good chunk of damage to it. One of my port guns is out, or is crippled, and then I have to rely on the left-hand one, and I have no way of repairing the Stormwall. It probably would have been actually better for me to drop the Arcane Shield, or I should say, it's kind of a weird situation. I wanted the Arcane Shield because of the Reckoner shots, but the Arcane Shield actually hurt me on the Scourge of Heresy, whereas if I didn't have it on the Scourge of Heresy, then the Reckoner shot would have done a lot more damage. Ideally, that latter part of the Reckoner shot doing more damage is probably would have been the better way to go. One Reckoner shot over multiple Scourge of Heresy swings would have kept the Stormwall better prepared. In my goal of trying to protect P. Haley from earlier, I've actually allowed myself to get hindered up by the fact that the Stormwall and the obstruction are now in our way. So I decide I'm going to go ahead and pop feet in hopes of getting 2 shots out and potentially dealing some heavy damage to Reznik. Without Murdoch in the list anymore, the Forge Guard are not nearly as potent as I had originally hoped that they would be. But they're still weapons masters, so I'm still going to try and do some work with them. They engage the Errant Seneschal that's down below, not because I'm necessarily considering him a huge scenario threat or because I really want him dead, more because I do not want him running over and charging Haley or shooting Haley or something to that measure. Most of the Errants won't be able to get a hit to Haley because of the obstruction or free strikes from running past a Forge Guard. But that one Errant, if they did not engage him, if they just left him be, might have been able to do some real work on Haley. So the rest of our Forge Guard are just advancing up. These 2 Forge Guard, Hero and the Seneschal, trying to do some work on him, and unfortunately not getting it done. One missing and one just not doing enough to kill him, which is sad. And then the last one is just trying to clear up some lanes. I'd contemplated about actually activating the Stormwall and hurling the Stormwall to knock down Reznik, but the way he's bunkered up with the Reckoner and the other Bastion, or the Bastion unit, I can't get a straight line to him. I would have loved to have just thrown it on top of Reznik's head and knock him down. It means my Stormwall doesn't get a shot, but it does mean that my Tempest Blazers can now shoot at something that's knocked down on the ground. It's just the way that it works out, that it's not... it probably would have been better for me just to attack the Heresy and take it out, as opposed to throwing it. I mean, I do some decent damage with it. Right now what we're trying to do is we're trying to work out exactly how the throw works. It's not often I get to throw with a Colossal, seeing as how I don't play Cygnar that often, and the Mountain King in my troll list doesn't see much action, but So we wanted to work it out for line of sight, drawing a line of sight, making sure how it deviates and all that stuff, and it actually is determined that it knocks down both the Reckoner and the Heresy, which, I mean, hey, that's cool, but it's not necessarily going to help in my plans of trying to kill Reznik this turn. And unfortunately, because of the fact that the Stormwall threw, he's not going to be able to shoot and get 2 shots from the feet, which is, again, I may have been better off just swinging on the Heresy and then taking the feet swing, because now nothing's really benefiting from my feet. My Forge Guard don't get it, my Stormwall doesn't get the advantage to it, Haley wasn't in range to really shoot anything, so the only thing that's really benefiting from the feat is the Journeyman, and a couple of the 1 or 2 gun mages are still alive, so it probably would be better for me to actually hold the feat itself. So the Murder Ponies, the Tempest Blazers advance up. Most of them can get a line of shot onto Reznik because of his large base. You know, they have. I had an opportunity. I might have been able to take out the objective for a point, but I was really looking at the fact that my list was losing models extremely quickly, and I figured that assassination was really about the only way that I was going to be able to pull this out. So first shot comes in and does 2 points of damage. Next shot comes in and does another 3. I get a 4 damage on the third shot. And then the final shot does another 2. In actuality, the amount of damage that they did on their crit brutals is a lot higher than it should have been. But, you know, I'm going to take it for what it is, and hopefully next turn I'll be able to do something with that.
Alright, folks, I barely survived this one, but, you know, live to fight another day. Alright, let's get down to business. Alright, so I'm allocating 1 to Scourge of Heresy, just so I can stand up and shimmy forward. I also don't upkeep any of the spells, either Iron Aggression or Ignite. I end up moving the Choir and doing shielding again, or sorry, battle again, so that I can do some damage with the Reckoner after he stands up. Reznik ends up activating. He gets the perk of Memorious Exaltation from the Hierophant, and he does Engine of Destruction. For those who don't know about Engine of Destruction, it's +4 mat, +2 speed, +2 strength, and he's just overall a badass. He ends up swinging on the Cav, ends up killing one of them, and because he killed one of them, he actually gets to make a Wrack. And he can place it anywhere within a couple inches of himself. He ends up buying an attack to actually swing on the Wrack. For those who don't know about the Wrack, if you swing and kill a Wrack, it actually blows up into a 5-inch AoE that's a POW 14, and actually hits all 3 horses. It's really fantastic and pretty awesome. It's nothing but an explosion of fantastic. It's like a Michael Bay movie. The Bastions end up shifting over to make like a defensive wall for Reznik in case Stormwall ends up getting some ideas to try to shoot him. Let's cross our fingers and hope he doesn't actually break through them. Scourge just kind of moves up, and the Reckoner just sits there and actually shoots at the Stormwall. Stormwall ends up taking like a few points here and there. No huge issue. He's still not dead, unfortunately. But, you know, we can hope. We end up giving an ancillary shot to the Reckoner. Ends up shooting at one of the Forge Guard, and actually ends up killing one of them. The Errants decide to activate, and they shimmy up the field, and they are going to try to shoot some stuff, because, you know, why not? It's a happy day when you gotta shoot stuff. End up hitting the Forge Guard, seems like for some reason they can't kill him for like the longest time. Then I try to shoot at Eiryss, but with her Toad on the hill, like, she's defense ridiculous, and I can't hit anything, so she just bobs and weaves and laughs at me. Seneschal activates, he ends up trying to swing and kill one of them. He ends up hitting. Ends up killing one of them, so one less Forge Guard to deal with. The mechanic walks over to try to repair the Reckoner. He actually ends up repairing him to full health, which is fantastic. This Reckoner's fresh and ready to go. Zealots end up walking away from the board edge to kind of join the fight against a Colossal. Only a few of them are in range, so a few of them might do like a point or two. The other ones just scatter and don't really do anything. For the most part, all they really do is throw candy at the Colossal. It's not like they're actually doing anything. They're like, take this, meanie, throwing pillows and whatnot.
Cygnar turn 4. So I'm still in the game, not by much. I was absolutely positively unprepared for Reznik killing every single pony with that whole Wrack explosion thing. I mean, I'd never seen it, I'd never heard of it, and yeah, I mean, the rule was on the card, but that specific interaction of how it was placed and all that, that was extremely brutal. Now that I don't have the ponies to shoot at him this turn, I'm not even sure if the assassination is even on the table anymore. But I am looking at the fact that he has jacks in front of, or he's left jacks in front of his wall of bastions. Now the Stormwall can't shoot at him because of the bastions that are in the way. And I have no way of giving the Stormwall elevation, except for the hill, which is way too far out for him to actually shoot with. So I have to find a way of knocking down those bastions with the few models that I have. And one of the things that I ended up doing, or ended up looking at, I'm looking at it right now, is Haley has the spell Scramble on her card, which causes a jack to go randomly deviate into direction, and anything that it comes in contact with gets knocked down. So if it's possible, I could get that jack in front of the bastions to scramble and deviate to a 1, 2, or 3. Then I can knock down some of those bastions and open up a lane for the Colossal to shoot at Reznik. It's not exactly a for sure win if I get the shot. I believe I'm like dice off 5 or 6, but if I can boost the damage off of the one cannon that is functioning, I may be able to pull off the assassination with it. But it's going to require that I activate in a way that allows me to knock the bastions over. So I'm going to need a proper deviation off of the jack in order to allow me to advance the Stormwall up and get a shot into him. So the first thing that I need to do is engage the Scourge, and that is because I do not want to have him, when I do cast Scramble, I do not want to have the Scourge run over and either attack and kill Haley, or just get in the way of the Stormwall altogether. So I run the Squire up so that I can use its benefits, and then Haley goes ahead and sits herself right in the middle of a field of Errants, because that seems like a good place to stand, but it's the only place that I'm going to be able to get to in order to get that scramble off. So I do manage to get it scrambled off, but it doesn't deviate to one of the three directions that are, or one of the three directions I really want it to. In actuality, the more I look at it, the more I only need, or I need a 1 or a 2 in order for the scramble to work in my way, which is not the best of odds. But he does end up scrambling over and walks up and knocks over both himself because he comes in contact with the linear obstacle, but also 2 of the Bastions. But it still gives me an opening. I still have a chance of shooting him, except for the fact that I forgot Reznik can advance when a spell is cast at him. So he is now advanced out of my gun range, and it's over. I mean, I'm going through the fundamentals of the turn, but I'm already looking at it of, you know, Haley is standing in a field of weapons masters who are all going to charge her next turn, and it is going to end up horrible for me. Just one of those scenarios where you can't, you got to read the card. But for the moral victory, I do kill the objective to make sure that I can get a scenario point. Because if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose with a point at least. I'm not sure. I mean, this is one of those things you're probably going to see me play Cygnar a little bit more in 2015 because I'm going to learn the faction and I want to represent Cygnar properly. But I am definitely on a hard learning curve here, coming from Trolls to Cygnar, and I promise I will get better shortly, hopefully. Thank you.